Hi everyone, and welcome to a new little video on drawing. And today I'm going to be working on an image of a Pitbull type dog. I think this is actually an English Pitbull that's running. I took the photo when I was at the beach down the road. The beach is a special area for dogs to use 90% of the time, pretty much all year round. And then in the winter the whole beach is opened up so dog walkers can go on anywhere on the beach. We got responsible dog owners, we got not so responsible dog owners. They do change the beach timetable now and then depending on how much mess or trouble there is. So whenever the dogs are running around, I always try and get a few photos, and this way I can always keep a really good reference library of different breeds. I've got a couple of hundred photos of only a small selection of breeds, but now in the winter on bright days I can go down there and I'll see maybe 40 odd different breeds of dog, and it's absolutely brilliant for reference photos. Though you can't always get photos because sometimes people are like, no, I don't want you taking a photo of my dog. Why are you going to do it? Because we do have a lot of dog theft down this end of the country. Sadly, people seem to like stealing dogs, and so it's kind of being polite, explaining, giving my business card over, and just kind of being friendly about it and polite. So what I've done already is I've done my swatch chart, and I don't normally do these. I just find them a waste of ink because with Copics, what's on the lid is normally the colour that you're going to go for. But I've actually just ordered in another load of Copics, so I desperately need to make sure I've got my chart updated, and that way I know I'm not duplicating anything. So this chart, as far as I know, is the 2017 chart, so there are extra colours on here, which is always handy to know. And it's also got the fine liners, which are one of the recent additions. Hopefully I'm going to fill out my blues over the next few weeks, and also some of the skin tones and the greys, depending on costing of course. So for this dog, you're going to laugh at this, my printer has actually run out of ink, so all I've got is a technical black and white photo. But this is still usable because at the end of the day I'm really only going to be concentrating on the shadows of this dog, because it was a white Pitbull with black ears, so I can really push the shadows and all of the colours that are within them, because of course shadows are not grey, they're reflected colours on them. So in this case there's going to be quite a lot of peaches, beiges, those sort of colours hidden in there. In fact, looking at the photo on screen, I've also got blues in there as well. So that's where the little trick that I showed in a previous video with the hole in the paper, that's where that's going to come in. So I can literally pinpoint the exact colours that I'm after. So let's... So if you're wondering what I mean by the little pinpoint trick, I still haven't got a hole punch up here, but basically you take a piece of paper and using a hole punch, not a pencil, this is just for demo purposes, you hole punch a hole in. So you have a hole in your paper. Then you can take your photo or put it on screen and you put it on top of your image, and then you can find the exact colour by looking through the hole. So it takes away looking through all of that detail, you're literally just pinpointing your colour. So in this case, okay, it's a black and white photo, but if it was the real dog image, I'd be going, say, there and saying, oh, there's a cream in that shadow, or up here there's a yellow reflection from the sand. So that's how you would use a little pinpoint method. It's really handy, it makes a complex drawing a lot more simpler to work out. Right, onwards. As I say, the local beach, they've got tons and tons of dogs, and it's just a case of being very, very polite, and normally I can always get a photo of somebody. I don't like to do just taking random photos and then being asked why am I taking the photos, because it's a bit more embarrassing to try and explain it at that point. So the first colour that I want is going to be, so she's stepping on squeaky floorboards, I reckon E50. So off we go. Now, if anyone wanting to know, the Pitbull breed, as its name suggests, was originally bred for their strength and their determination in fighting. Now, a lot of people say they're a dangerous dog, and they do come under part of the Dangerous Dogs Act in the UK. Pitbull type breeds, there are certain ones that are banned because they, sadly, the aggression hasn't been bred out of them, if that makes sense. It's certainly not a dog that I would say should ever be near a young child or other pets. They can be a bit too overprotective, and just, it's common sense. I mean, would you leave your child with a 20-foot crocodile? Unsupervised kind of thing. I mean, there are good dogs and there are bad dogs, and a lot of it does come down literally to the owner. If the owner isn't responsible, then the dog can pick up bad traits and then go from there. I mean, I've known some really beautiful, well-behaved fighting dogs that they were given the right training from puppyhood, and all of the bad behaviours were kind of really stopped at a young age, and their owners won't let them out without a muzzle, so real kind of making sure that nothing can happen and not tempting fate. But then I know some really bad dog owners who just are like, oh well, the dog's gonna do what the dog's gonna do, and they don't take the responsibility, and then the dogs do become very, very aggressive. I mean, if I was trapped in a room with a load of dogs, I would actually rather face a Doberman or a Rottie than a Pitbull. Because these are dogs that were put not only against bulls, but bears and other dogs. And so their jaw power is very, very strong. And once they grab, they've got quite a crushing bite. In fact, you're probably safer off with a wolf, in all honesty. And because of the terrier part of it, it's not going to be one to let go. It'll be grip, crush and shake. But like I say, not all of them are bad dogs, but they're one of the dogs that keeps on coming up for rehoming, and there's a whole kennel in the UK that are confiscated Pitbulls, Staffies and other fighting dogs, and they're all due to be destroyed, but because it has to be a legal decision via the courts, it's they're literally just sat waiting to die. But mankind's created it through selective breeding, so we kind of cause a problem. Yeah, like all things, we cause a problem and then moan about it later. Okay, so next I'm going to go for a very, very light violet. And I'm probably going to be looking around the BV lots of zeros. So yeah, so it's this BV0000 and it's called Pale Thistle. Nice thing about combining these two colours, the 50 and the BV0000, is that when you combine them you do get a very light grey, but it's got a slight tinge of colour, so it's quite a good one to combine. I prefer to add lots of colour into dog drawings, quite simply because dogs are colourful characters. Okay, so the next colour I'm going to go for is probably be V23, I reckon. It's still in the purple blues, but it's more tinged towards the grey, and this is going to be for some much darker shadow. And then I'm probably going to come back through with one of the warm greys just to soften that down and blend it in. So next I'm now going to come through with a W1 or W2, depending on which one I can find first. W0, W2 it is. And I'm just going to blend out some of the shadows and add a little bit more detail, so almost like the mid-tones now. You'll see me now and then taking the chisel nib and then going back to the brush nib. The reason I do this is that with Copics there's often pressure build up in the barrel, so if you don't open up one end and then just literally open up an end and start using it, you can get a build up of the pressure, which will then cause a massive ink flow and a big splurt of ink and ruin your drawing. So what I do beforehand is I open my chisel nib if I'm not going to be using that, then I open my brush nib and that just releases that little bit of pressure and makes sure that the ink comes through nice and evenly. And you'll notice that as I'm adding each layer and blending them in, I'm starting to add more detail with each layer. So all of the work before is almost like a little underpainting, and then this is going using that beautiful brush nib much finer and just picking up key areas now. But there's still some underpainting work to do and some blending. But with Copics, the nice thing is you can go back and forth with them. One of the things I love about Copics is the beautiful soft colours that you can get. And with an image like this where you do want the ink to stay quite translucent and gentle, all of the kind of zero lines, things like the BV0000 and the BV000 and then the BV00 and the BV01, that kind of group in all of them, all of the colours are just so soft and gentle. It's unbelievable. I mean, I did try the Spectrum Noir pens, and I found that they were so bright and strong, and they didn't have the opaqueness, that I just couldn't get anything what I would call a realistic drawing. I did just about do a dapple grey horse, but even that I had to use a blender stroke bleaching pen so much to tone the colours down. It didn't feel comfortable. Whereas these, I know with the Copics I'm going to get a really nice decent amount of lightness and realism can be achieved with that. So now I'm going to be looking for a colour that's almost purple-ish slate, I would say. Yeah, slate, definitely. So I'm going to go back to the numbers, not the additives, and I'm going to use a blend of E70 and E71, and these are very slate-like. There are other colours in the collection that are probably more suited, but these are the only ones that I've got in my collection right now, so they're gonna do. So I've just got to find, got my E70, so I need E71. That looks like it, yeah. Difference between the pens that I'm using. The Chow have got the number written on the barrel, whereas the Sketch have got the number written on the top of the pens and on the barrel. So kind of when hunting for pens, it's easier to find your pens in the Sketch than it is in a Chow, which is annoying. I've got both because at the time when I started with Copics, I went for the cheaper option, which was the Chow, and now that I'm developing, I'm going for the Sketch so that I can quickly get to my pens and I'm not having to go through the whole row just to try and ID the pen. I mean, you can stick labels on them, but that's personal preference. So next I'm going to be looking for the pinks that are around the dog's eyes and also around the mouth and ears. On this dog it was actually quite a bright pink, but I don't want to go too luminous. I want it to work with the neutral greys and the browns and the earth tones and not stick out too much. If ever you look at a white dog's face, especially with the Pitbull breeds, you will see in with Staffords, the short head type dogs, you'll see areas around the eye and the mouth that are really, really pink. And it's trying to find a pink that matches but doesn't go really silly. So in this case I'm thinking of R21, which is quite a neutral pink, and also R11. So just gotta find them. That's R21. I've got my pens all over the place. R20, no. R11, there we go. So R11 is the lighter one, which I use as a base coat, and then the R21, and probably again with the R11 just to tone it down and blend it all in. So now I'm going to be concentrating on a little bit of the dark areas of shadow, and for these I'm going to go probably for, see what have I got, I reckon a W7 might do it. I don't want to go dark but I don't want it to look, the shadows not look strong enough, so in fact I'll bring in a W3 as well. Another nice thing about Copics is you don't have to apply any pressure. The gentlest movement you can apply ink and it can be absolutely perfectly controlled. With the darkest colour I'm only literally putting tiny bits on there because I'm going to come through now with the W3 and I'm going to soften that all down. So I am going over those colours that I've just put down. Like I said, just softening everything up. I'm just adding in detail where needed. Now I'm going to get the E50 and blend the greys in as well. And now what I'm going to do is use a W1. Actually, what should I go? I'm going to go for a blue type grey, so I'm probably going to go for a C1 in fact, because I've just done a quick check against the shadow and is blue in the shadow, so I want that to reflect on the drawing. So now in with the C1. So I'm hoping already you can see how by bringing in the earth tones and then the cool tones it's creating more of a cast shadow and then more of kind of reflection off the ground. So the white dog is not white, and there's all these colours within it. And I just realised the sky outside has gone completely and utterly yellow. You thunderstormed you. Dun dun dun. So now I'm just going to go back onto the nose area. You see I'm putting a lot of detail into this face because that's where all the motion is going to be. And so I'm just going to bring it in the E71 and E70 again, just to go over a couple of bits and start pulling in more detail. Okay, so I'm now going to let the face dry up a bit. While that's drying, I'm going to move on to the body. Now the reason I want it to dry off slightly and not to be working wet on wet is that I want the colours now to start to really push through. So the best way to do that is to just let it dry. So I'm going to take a C1 and a C0 and just start to bring in some of the rest of the body shadow. And in truth, if you're watching this video and you think, oh, I wouldn't mind trying to do that using those colours, you don't have to use the colours I'm using. It's your piece of artwork. You decide what colours you want to put on it. I mean, if you want your dog to be, or your subject to be bright and luminous pink, and that's how you interpret it. Because art is in the eye of the beholder, there technically isn't a wrong way of doing it. I mean, if you're aiming for realism, then yeah, you might want to concentrate a bit more on the detail. But if you're looking for the emotion of the animal, and it's a happy animal, well, bright colours would work, because if that's what you're trying to show in your artwork, then that's going to work. But we all see colour and things differently, so you need to sit down, do some colour swatches, and determine in your own mind what colours you would like to use. Back in with the 50, just to add a little bit of tonal variation and to follow through. So all the colours I'm using in the face are all going to be through the body, so it flows. I'm in fact just going to bring a tiny bit of E70 into this shadow, and then I'll blend it back out with probably the C0. As you can see, I'm only just dotting little bits of colour to suggest I'm not oversaturating the area at all. In fact, I might use C1 instead. So this again is why studying and really understanding if you're using a reference photo is so important if you want to get a realistic image. It doesn't have to be 100% exact, but if you can get the muscles blocked in and the detail into the face, you're pretty much there. But keep on practicing. Seriously, the more you practice, the more confident you'll get, and what you might think is a mess or not very good drawing, other people could like. So don't diss yourself just because you're not too sure on something. Thank you, Dragonfire810. You've just subscribed and it's really appreciated. Thank you. Yay! Lovely to have you here. So I'm just going to come back in with the E70 because, as I was saying earlier about using whatever pen I'm using up at the head end, I'm using all the way through. And in this case, where the shadows are on the back legs, there's just a dark enough point just to show exactly where that colour can fit in. I can also put it onto the pads so it can be seen. So now what I'm going to do is, now that the image is starting to dry, is I'm going to come through with the W7 and just start to pick up the heavier detail on areas like the pads, the nose and the darkest areas. I don't have any plans to use black in this image because in truth when looking at the dog she didn't have any black on her, so I mean even the ears, if you get a chance to fluff a dog's ears, have a good look. Even they weren't black, they were all different tones within there. And the good thing is, if I think it's too sharp, which it's looking quite now a little bit too sharp, I'll come through with a lighter W, probably W3, and just soften that out. Bear with me 2 seconds, we have an interruption. Oh, sorry about that. We have too many stairs around here. Now you might be thinking, oh no, she's left and the Copics have dried and now she won't be able to blend them out. Oh no! Actually, I can, because it's alcohol marker and alcohol marker. It will reactivate them. Ooh, sorry, I'm puffed. It's going to reactivate them and they'll come back and I can still loosen them up and work with them. The joy of Copics. Now around the base of one of the ears was the only area that there was a really dark spot, and it did kind of look like a black spot. Famous Pitbull dog, Bullseye from Oliver Twist. In the film, I think it was a different breed in the book. I think it was more of a Mastiff type dog in the book, but the one in the film, that one had a black spot, I believe. But as I said earlier, there's not going to be any black in this image. Just going to go to probably W7, and that way it's not going to be too overpowering, because I want the image to almost just look fluid and almost ghost-like. Kind of show the beauty of the motion of the dog. So now I've just got to find the darkest areas in these ears. Always ever alert ears. And pick those out and then blend them back and push it forward and blend it back again. And that way you get much more depth and dimension into the shape, because you get the detail of veining and things like that in the image, but it's not too strong and there isn't too much of a contrast. So in fact, So I'm now going to just bring in some C3 just to darken off the blues. And now the sky's gone complete and utterly pinky, orangey, yellow outside. Ew, freaky. We must be due a planetary alignment or something going on. It's very freaky weather outside in the UK right now. Okay, so what I'm now going to do is tone down quite a lot of the greys, just to make them a bit more, well, lighter. So to do this, I'm going to actually use a W00. This is a very, very opaque colour, and it's almost like a wash. So it's just going to tone everything down and just bring things into context. And also I can actually now add in some detail along the back without it sticking out like a sore thumb. So I think I'm going to call that pretty much 90% complete. There are a couple of areas that I can push back and play around with, which I probably will do at a later date. But I just wanted to show you how I would approach drawing like this of a white subject, and kind of give you some hints and tips and ideas of how you yourselves could all have a go and what to kind of look for. But the whole thing is, it's going to be down at the end of the day to your interpretation of what you see. So when you look at shadow, do you really see grey? Do you see blue? Do you see violets in there? Which you might be surprised at if you really do have a good look at a shadow. So like I say, I hope this has inspired you all to have a go and pick up those pencils, pens, whatever you can lay your paws on, and enjoy, relax, and have an awesome time. So till next time, thank you so much for watching. You're always appreciated and everyone's always welcome. So thank you very much, take care and all the best. And possibly see you next time. Well, actually I hope I see you next time because you guys are awesome. Good night.